Dave knows how.
Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk a little bit more about the backhoe. I hope you guys aren't getting tired of hearing about the backhoe, but it seems like the more videos that I make about the backhoe, the more questions that come up, and that's a good thing because it gives an opportunity for us to share ideas and thoughts and different things like that on using the backhoe. Not only using the backhoe, but using the backhoe in a manner that's going to preserve and extend the life of the backhoe. So the question that I had from one of my subscribers was in reference to where the dipper hinges on the boom, which is right here. And I'm going to zoom you in if I can get this zoom to work. I'm going to zoom you on in and we're going to look at this. And right in between here, there's a shim. And I wasn't sure if my backhoe had that shim or not, but as it turns out, mine has the shim as well. But on this person's backhoe, there was considerable amount of space in there. So you could slide this dipper on this pivot point this way, back and forth. It had about 1/8 of an inch gap in there, okay? And that gap, after looking at mine and looking at the exploded view on the website, I'm kind of thinking that that gap should not be there, okay? Now, with that said, I wouldn't get over stressed out over the gap, okay? It is an 1/8 of an inch gap, and it is a pretty good size. That's a pretty good size gap, but the main thing that we need to do is we need to look at what created the gap, what made that gap come about. And I've actually addressed this in another video, but I didn't really go into detail as to what can happen or show what can happen. And I'm going to put a link to the video down in the description below, and we'll probably put it up here too. I guess it'll be on this side. And you can look at that video, and we talk about a maneuver that you make with the backhoe, whereas you're on the backhoe and you've got your spoil pile, you've already dug your hole, you got your pile over here, and you're getting ready to fill your hole back in. And a lot of times, and I see this all the time, you go out on these construction sites, you watch YouTube videos, and these guys, to fill in these holes, they'll swing the boom over, put the bucket down, and they'll just sweep it around and just sweep the dirt right back into the hole with the bucket, using the swing of the boom to do that, okay? And that puts some stress on the machine, especially if you have the bucket down too low to the ground and it hits something and comes to a stop. You put a lot of stress on the frame, the boom, and the dipper. And I'm going to show you the places where. We're going to zoom you in again, okay, just a little bit. Right here, if you notice on this backhoe, the paint is gone right here and on the other side right here. And that is a stress point. And that happened from swinging the boom to fill the hole back in. When you swing this boom around and let the bucket pull that dirt back in, it's twisting this, okay? And it's popped the paint off of here. And it probably on his backhoe spread these two ears apart, creating that gap in there. Okay, so we need to be very careful when we fill in our ditches by swinging this boom over. In the video where I talk a little bit about this is where I'm digging a hole over here and we go to fill it back in, and instead of just swinging the boom over and pulling the dirt in, we actually reach out with the dipper and the bucket and we pull the dipper in and swing, and we try not to take too much of a bite, okay, because your dipper pulling in has a lot more strength than your swing going around to move dirt. So if we go over on an angle and we pull in with the dipper in the bucket and pull the dirt back this way and swing at the same time, and try not to take too much dirt, especially if it's wet or heavy clay. It's going to put a lot of stress on it. If you go around your backhoe and you look, and you'll see where the stress points are by where the paint's popped off. Let's take a look over here on this side. You'll see a stress point right here where the paint has popped off. Okay, I've seen backhoes that have been snapped off right here and welded back together. They've actually cracked all the way across and been welded back together. And if you're in the market to buy a used backhoe, that's one of the things that you need to look for. When you go to look at a tractor that has a backhoe on it, you need to shake it around. You can see mine has got a little slop down at the bottom. It's not a lot of slop, but it's a little bit of slop. That's really the only place that I have any slop on this particular hoe. The bucket and everything else is nice and tight. It's just right down there at that joint that gets a lot of use, where the boom goes down, that hinge point right there where the boom at the bottom goes down. It's a very critical point. It gets used a lot and needs to be greased heavily, constantly. Keep grease in it. Try to keep dirt out of it the best you can, because it does take a lot of wear and tear. So keep that in mind. If you're in the market to buy a used backhoe, look for signs of stress where the paint has popped off. If you see where paint has popped off, that doesn't necessarily mean to stay away from that backhoe, but it does mean that you need to look for cracks, okay? So I can see the paint was popped off of this backhoe when I bought it. I bought it used. It was popped off of there. So I had to put my glasses on and inspect it real close and make sure there wasn't any cracks or anything in there. And you can die check for cracks, but most people that you go to buy a backhoe from or a tractor from, they're not going to let you do a die check right there. So, you know, it is what it is. A simple poor man's die check is really not real accurate, but it will show up some cracks, is to take one of those wide Sharpies, a new one where it's got a lot of ink in it. It's got the big wide Sharpie, and you could take that Sharpie and if you take some light sandpaper where this rust is and the paint's gone, and you sand over this till it's somewhat shiny metal, take that Sharpie and then really coat this thing good, and then take that sandpaper again and lightly go over it and knock that Sharpie, black Sharpie, off for the high points. If it's a crack in there, substantial crack in there, that Sharpie's going to go down into that crack, and you're going to be able to see that crack. It's going to be very, very visible. So my eyesight's kind of bad, so that's kind of how I need to look for an obvious crack. But that's something you want to look for. So pop over and check out my video on, I'll put the link in the description below, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I actually mention in that video about using the dipper and the swing and the bucket all at the same time to fill the hole in. And when I do just use the swing of the boom, I make really, really sure that I'm moving very light amounts of material, and I'm not trying to move that whole massive pile in one swing. You know, it looks good on TV, but it just is hard on your machine. It's hard on these stress points where the machine can really wreak havoc and potentially crack and break. So I'm thinking that on this gentleman's backhoe, from swinging the boom around to fill in a hole, he's probably had the bucket a little bit too low. The contour of the ground may have been a little bit of hill, so when you're over here swinging to fill in your ditch over here, you got to be swinging and raising your boom at the same time in order to not swing and hit into the ground and come to an abrupt stop. When you come to an abrupt stop, that's what puts the stress on here. So I'm thinking that he's come to an abrupt stop. He's swung around, possibly, you know, swung around and hit a tree. I've done that before myself. You know, I'd be swinging the boom and pulling the dipper in at the same time, and then a bug would get on my face, and I'd go to slap the bug, and I'd let go of the stick that pulls the dipper in. Well, when you do that, the swing speeds up, and boy, that thing takes off, and then wham, you slam the bucket against a tree, you know, or something like that. And if you do that, it could spread these two ears on each side of here that connect to the dipper. It could spread them open, and that's what would create that gap in there. On this side, it's got a bolt that goes through that holds that pin in place. But on this side, there is no bolt. Over here, there's nothing holding it in place. That pin is just, there's no retaining clip or nothing. That pin just goes through and it just sets right there. And this is where your grease zerk fitting is, right there. So the point is, there's nothing there to keep these two ears from spreading apart. The only thing that keeps them from spreading apart is this piece way down in here that's welded in there to try to structurally keep it from flexing and bending like that. But it's not, you know, destruction proof, or what I like to call it, it's not Dennis the Menace proof. If any of you guys know who Dennis the Menace is, that guy could break anything. So anyway, just wanted to make a quick video and kind of share that with you. I wouldn't stress over it too much. I would look for some cracks to make sure you don't have a crack there. And I would take some measurements, because there is a possibility that that is not how that gap got there. It is a possibility that that gap was born there when the machine was made, because when you start welding all this stuff together, it's not an exact science, because you're welding inside, you're welding outside, you're heating this ear up. You know, I'm going to call this an ear coming up here off of the boom. You're heating that ear up, and as it cools down, it can do this, okay? So what I'm saying about this thing getting twisted and opening that up, theoretically that could have happened, but also it could have happened during the cooling process and the welding process of building a piece of equipment, and you may never have a problem with it. It may be fine just the way it is. And if you did stress it and bend it out, it may still be fine, and you may still never have a problem with it, as long as you don't continue to put undue stress on your machine. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Keep in mind again, we are all fragile, and our equipment is fragile, and we need to be very cautious when we operate our equipment. Operate it within the aspect that its capabilities, because you know, you can break anything. Believe me, I know. I broke a lot of stuff. So be careful out there, have fun, and I hope you enjoyed the video.
Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.